introduce you to your panel of experts here. I'm going to start with Megan because she's going to be the host of the webinar today. And Megan, is this your first live webinar with us?
Yes, it is. I don't think Don or Dale knew that, but this is my first.
Oh man, I would have bailed. I would have bailed.
Yeah, so I've done one partner webinar. I've supported a lot of webinars with Steph on the back end, but this is my first time on one, so I'm excited. Awesome. I guess I should introduce myself.
I can't believe it took us that long to get.
Oh,
go for it.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so my name's Megan. I'm a member of the product marketing team here at SAFE, and our team's responsible for building a lot of the content, collecting customer stories, and just supporting all of our customers and sales with any information that they need. And I'll be throwing some questions at everyone today.
Awesome. Thanks, Megan. Yeah, I can't believe this is your first on-air webinar. Megan has helped us with mostly, honestly, Megan, all our top performing webinars have had you on the back end. So I think anyone listening in is in for a real treat that you're on the air with them. So while we go in alphabetical order to introduce ourselves, before we do that, why don't you guys in the audience start typing in questions, and then when we're done, we can just dive right into it. And I will bring up actually this slide quickly to show you that there are a couple different ways that you can ask questions. We have an on-air option and an off-air option. So I'll leave that up and then pass it over to Chris.
Hey, so I'm Chris. I'm part of the Fme desktop technology experts here at SAFE. I've been around for about 2.5 years now, coming up on the 3rd year. And yeah, been involved with a few webinars. You might have seen a couple of articles on the Knowledge Center, or even seen me at the World Tour. So happy to be here.
Okay, and I guess alphabetically I'm next. My name is Dale. I'm one of the 2 co-founders of SAFE, and I'm sure you'll meet the other one very shortly. And I guess together with Don, I've been doing this data integration stuff at the beginning without knowing it, but it's been about 27 years at least. We're coming up on 27 actually. Yeah.
Yeah, we're going alphabetical.
Dale, are there any questions?
What?
Sorry, I think my internet's got a bit of a lag. I'm going to turn off my camera, but I was going to say, Dale, are there any questions that you're hoping people might ask?
Ooh, I'd love to hear questions about integrating CAD and GIS. Why don't I go to the old classic? Well, I'll take him about SAIF as well, but I might be asking too much.
Cool. Don, I'm going to ask you the same question at the end too. So.
Okay. Hi, I'm Don Murray. I'm the other founder, and I wasn't sure whether it was alphabetical by first name or last name. That's a joke. I'll let you all figure it out. Yeah, and yeah. So any questions about you know, enterprise integration, or of course XML? And just an advertisement out there, we're doing an XML webinar on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, and if you really like Megan as the host, she's going to be the host. So there you go. So yeah.
Oh, great.
Merry Christmas, Megan. Laura.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I wasn't sure if you're asking Don the question or not. Oh, I guess you did. He answered it. Okay. So my name is Laura. It's early in the morning today, so I'm still kind of getting waking up here. But yeah, I'm one of the Fme server experts here at SAFE. I've been around approaching 10 years now, so it's been a while. So excited to see what kind of questions come up today.
Nice. Yeah, Laura, Chris, any questions you guys or topics you guys hope people ask about?
Not in particular. I kind of like answering all types of different questions. So throw us whatever you have.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think about web formats and things like that. It's always fun to talk about too.
Well, thanks, guys. I am going to, Megan, I'll pass it over to you then, but if someone has their hand raised, I'll come back on the air and help them get on screen. But in the meantime, take it away, Megan.
Excellent. Thanks, Steph. All right, so first question I have is just to set the stage. I know we have a lot of people that are very familiar with Fme and the industry, but just so everyone knows what we're talking about, does anyone want to answer, how would you describe data integration to someone that doesn't know what the concept is? Just to sure we all have the same definition here.
It's when you mix the chocolate with the peanut butter and get the Reese's peanut butter cup.
That's actually good.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Yeah. So I mean, yeah. So what Dale said was actually an amazingly good metaphor. Organizations often have data scattered across many systems. Could be finance. Could be, you know, in a city they would have their planning and their permits and also their mapping where they track everything. And sometimes you need to pull all the data together to solve or answer other questions, and that bringing data from multiple sources to create or derive new data is, I guess, data integration. Breaking down silos, I think, is something we talk a lot about. Yeah.
I think those are both great definitions. I guess the next one, this is a common question that the product marketing team often gets from customers, but there is two concepts of things that we do in SAFE, data integration and application integration. And I think that's an important thing to differentiate and explain the differences if someone wants to jump in there.
Well, I'll take a crack at it and then we'll see. I haven't actually passed the exam around this question, but I'll give you what I think it is. So to me, application integration is about integrating things that are more live. So it's more, I'm working with Salesforce and I'm working with my Jira system, and something happens and I can bring data in, and it's more of a drip feed, usually like stuff, or it could be fast, but more that as events happen, these applications that are generally cloud-based, I am taking information and deriving new things on the fly. Whereas the other one, good old-fashioned data integration, is more, I've got 3 Excel spreadsheets, they're made by different groups in my company, I need to bring them together to produce the most amazing output ever. Now, I just used a case where they're all 3 the same format, but of course it could be, I've got a CAD file and a spreadsheet and I need to make a property value map. That would be what I'd be talking about. How do people like that crack at it?
I think it's good. I think it's great. And FME does both. We have, and Dale and I have been talking about, you know, Workbench and using the term data flow more, because for somebody who doesn't know FME, oh, I got a workspace. Well, that doesn't really tell them what is a workspace. Oh, it's created by Workbench. Okay, now I got 3 things. That doesn't really help me understand what's going on. Whereas with Workbench, you're really building these data flows, pulling data, large amounts of data, typically from 1 or more systems. IMDF's a classic data integration. You need CAD data, you need lease data to bring it together to create your model. And so that's where Workbench shines. And then we have, at the automation level, we have, at the server level, we have automations, and that's all about enterprise integration. Application integration. As Dale said, those are typically small message-based things, often JSON or everybody's favorite format, XML, that are zinging around that trigger other actions, and they can trigger data integration. And those 2 things, data integration and application integration, are what is needed for just to say that you're an enterprise integration platform. One alone is not enough, and you need both. Yeah.
I think maybe I'll just jump in to say that Dawn and I have been realizing that we may have been under promoting what the automations capability in FME server is able to do in the last little while. That is an amazingly powerful application integration platform just on its own, without even worrying about what Workbench brings to the table. So you're going to see us, I think, emphasizing that more and expanding that more, because really you can do an amazing amount without really cracking much into Workbench just inside of automations.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent. So I have one audience question. This is along the same lines of terminology, but why did Safe Software change from a spatial ETL into an FME integration platform? Because we did make that change about 2 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want me to jump on that one? Sure. Yeah. Spatial ETL is one thing that FME that FME does. And so at the time, you know, people were wondering, what is this FME? What is this FME thing? And then ETL, extract, transform, and load, was one of the strong things that people used FME for. And so we jumped on the spatial bandwagon, because spatial is our strength. And as spatial becomes more important, that, you know, that strength becomes more valuable. And so then we focused on the spatial ETL. And then, but then people thought, then the flip side of focusing or embracing a term like that is, and people think that that's all you are, right? Because people really love to be able to put things in cubby holes. We all like to, you know, put something in a cubby hole it gets messy with FME because really we would, you know, we hit a lot of different cubbyholes, I guess, if I can use a cubbyhole metaphor. I've never used a cubbyhole metaphor before, but yeah, and so, you know, and it's sort of like also there's you know, ESB, you know, oh, it saves an ESB, and for me, I'm like, oh my goodness, no, let's not do the ETL thing all over again and make people think we're just an ESB because we're not. But that's why we moved from, we do ETL. ETL is one thing that FME can do, but it's only a small component.
Excellent. Thanks, Don. So I do see that there is a hand raised. Steph, do you want to jump in and see if we can get someone on the air?
Yes. Yep. I'm going to go ahead and make them a panelist. While we do that, is there another question you guys want to answer?
I have an easy one for Don and Dale.
I saw one that said, okay, what was the first?
Okay, like easy ones.
Sorry.
Yeah. What was the format or data type that brought you guys together to start, Dave?
It's right in our name. It was the famous Spatial Archive and Interchange Format, SAIF.
Yeah.
Which really was a lot like XML, Don.
It was a beautiful format, and XML, I guess you could say XML was a descendant, you know, sort of like we all come from the Australopithecus. So I guess you could say XML comes from SAFE, which was the granddaddy of FME's architecture, really. Because it was such a powerful format, it forced us in the early days to make a really rich and powerful architecture. Whereas if the first format had been CSV, we probably wouldn't be on the air right now.
Yes. And actually, I was thinking about it the other day with Don that in some respects, SAIF was so advanced, we didn't realize that we should have used it actually for some of our own configuration because it was a very rich, powerful language, a lot like JavaScript object notation in some ways, JSON. And if we would have adopted SAFE, it would have saved us this massive project we're just doing right now to redo all of our user interface language in JSON. If we'd have done it in SAFE to begin with, we'd already been done, Don.
Yes, that's true.
We didn't know what we had. So that's the lesson for today. Take a look around you. You might not know what you have.
Okay.
Okay, it doesn't look like they are able to come on the air, but they typed in their question.
Okay.
So my question is that we have a 2D GIS data and BIM building modeling, and they would like to know if there is a possibility to make the aggregation of those data to get a BIM. Oh no, 2D GIS data and BM.
Yeah.
Can they bring them together to make BIM?
Yeah, some people, I mean, what you'd be doing there is taking a building model that you hope, or you better get it in the right place on the earth, and then you take the GIS data and you combine those. Some people used to call that a slim BIM. If you just take GIS data as a starting point for BIM, the trick with FME is figuring out what your output format's going to be. Right now, I would say IFC would be, if you're going to create BIM with FME, you're probably looking at IFC. Actually, people might do this kind of thing, as Don was hinting at, with IMDF for indoor mapping. Yeah. Sometimes there's 2D GIS data that needs to be combined. Anyway, what else strikes you, Don, about this question?
No, I think you got it. The only other format I would think of would be I3S maybe, you know, like you might be, you know, but Dale's got it. You got to get that building in the right geographic coordinates. And often that's a tricky part because a building coordinate system often is in feet or meters with 0, somewhere on the construction site. So yeah.
The other thing, and maybe it's significant that the questioner says it's 2D GIS data. If you want to make it 3D, there are global data sets of elevation, and I think FME can even connect to them. That I can't remember what was it MapZen, I think. Maybe Chris or Laura can check if we still have that MapZen. There was a service or at least a free data set of worldwide elevation. But nonetheless, you could grab a chunk of elevation data and use Don's favorite old surface modeler transformer. I think there's a draper, a surface draper that you take the 2D in, the elevation model in, out comes 3D, and now you have 3D GIS data that would probably be a little more suitable for integrating with BIM.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I just checked on Workbench, and yeah, there is still that MapZen AWS DEM downloader. So that's a hub transformer for all of you who are familiar with the hub.
So depending on where you are on the earth, you have better and lesser quality there, but at least you'll get something as far as elevation goes.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right, I have another audience question here. This is a little specific, but how do I import a custom PRJ file to define a dataset's coordinate system?
I was afraid you'd ask that. I saw that one bubbling. I thought maybe we can get through the whole thing without Megan asking that one. I have to say, you know, I don't think we have an obvious or easy way. Now, Laura or Chris or Dawn can correct me, but I don't know that we have a way to actually import a PRJ. I can come up with tricky ways like, you know, replacing the one that was with your favorite shapefile with this one, and then now you've got it into Fme. But does anybody have a better idea?
I think the best way around that would be using the define custom coordinate system tool that I think Dave made that one. So
Okay.
you'd have to essentially open up the PRJ file and pull out the well-known text, put it into there, and then you'll have a custom coordinate system that you can then import into Fme. And we can send out the link to that as well, because that is one that's commonly requested.
Good question.
Yeah, it feels like we should make that easier. But anyway, thanks for pointing that out.
We have a question from William. Are there any ways of accessing ESRI MXDs directly in Fme? And can you launch ESRI MXD maps directly in Fme?
Who wants to be brave? There is, if you have an ArcGIS license, we can use ArcObjects to read an MXD, which what that really means is we will figure out what data sets it was pointing to and then kind of recursively read those. So Fme can read MXDs if you have ArcGIS kicking around, but I think we aren't going to be able to get necessarily all of the styling, and if there was filters in there and so on, we aren't going to interpret those fully. There is an open source project called Slayer, SLYR, that the QGIS people are working on that I think can do a more sophisticated job. And we have talked about possibly integrating Slayer with Fme. If you wanted to do this, for example, on Linux or Mac, that would be a way that we could do it. So if that's of interest, do let us know. But Laura or Chris, have you guys ever worked with MXDs in Fme?
A little bit back in the day, but yeah, it's pretty much as you described. You can get at the data, but none of the styling or anything like that. So.
Yeah, I can't say I've really ever read in any MXDs either. So.
Excellent. So we have a lot of questions flying in here. So everyone, we're going to try and get to your questions, but if we don't, we do have some folks on the back end that will try and get you the answers. So I apologize if we can't ask them here, but these are all fantastic questions. So next one, this is going to go back to a bit more of a story time, but what is the largest data integration, either number of formats or applications or just overall use case that you've seen Fme be used for?
Wow, in terms of data types and number of formats. Well, I mean, we have some amazing clients who are pulling data from all over. The European Environment Agency comes to mind, where they're basically pulling environment data from all across Europe to build a big system that integrates it all. Yeah, that's any else come to mind?
Well, Don, I mean, even with those, you had just interviewed the folks from Blue Dot earlier this week.
Yeah, there's a great one. Yeah.
For those that didn't tune in, that would be online somewhere, but they use Fme to integrate data to try to track the outbreak of viruses. What a boring topic that no one would care about these days. But I think they're
around the world. So, and that's one of the reasons they chose Fme was it supports hundreds and hundreds of different data sources. Yeah.
I don't know if they're on the line, but I think it's the Iowa DOT that has that amazing snowplow system. And I think there's also a question here about Arcgis Online and Fme. That I think they gather data from sensors, and actually I think there's phones on every snowplow with getting imagery and stuff, and they're updating an Arcgis Online. So if you are a citizen of that state, you could tell where the snowplow is and what the road conditions are just about anywhere. And so that I've seen their diagram, and there's almost every database and cloud system and service that you can imagine is used in this whole thing to pull it off, but it's very impressive.
Yeah.
Excellent. I think we have a question on the line, Steph.
We do. Okay, Robert, I am going to promote you to be a panelist, and then I'm going to send you a request to share your webcam and unmute. I did chat out those links that you had mentioned, Dawn and Dale, about Iowa Dot and the COVID story we just did.
Right. Yeah.
So, okay, Robert, let's try this. I'm going to send unmute request. Perfect. Is it working? Hang on, Robert, I think you are unmuted. Are you there? Darn. Okay, Robert, we'll give you a couple minutes to figure it out. Megan, is there another question you want to ask?
Yes, I have. What is the latest news about ProjectWise read and writing? If there is any news.
I guess as far as I know, it works, and we do have customers using it. And so if the customer in question has some additional functions that they want to, just let us know. That is a connector that's on the hub, and that lets us make modifications between release cycles of FME, and so it's fairly fairly straightforward. I know that you do have to use what Bentley calls their web services gateway, the WSG, to get at ProjectWise. So you have to have that installed, and then you should be in business.
Excellent.
Okay,
Steph,
I'm not sure if this is going to work for Robert. Doesn't look like it. Robert, if you want to type in your question instead, we can read it that way. And if not, Megan, we can just carry on with some of the typed in questions. Perfect.
Next one I have is it possible to integrate in-memory databases with standard RD BMS? I believe that's a risk, I'm pretty sure, for faster data handling and applications. So in-memory databases with standard RD BMS.
That's a good question.
As far as I know, none of the databases we support right now are considered only in memory, at least not on the host memory. Don, is that right?
Yeah, I can't think of. Yeah, it would be good to know what database in particular that you're thinking about, because that would be really interesting. You know, we know that some of the databases that we talk to, a lot of the data is just loaded into memory, and that's completely hidden below FME. We don't really know. We just talk to the APIs. But if you knew what the database you were in question, that would be good. We also internally we have what's the name of the transformer where we build our own in-memory inline querier?
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, I think SAP HANA is an in-memory database, but that's out on the, like Don says, we don't really care because it's out in the cloud. And of course, you can use FME to bring these together, do a query. We recommend using SQL statements to pull out only what you care about, and then that's called letting the database do the work, and then doing an additional join afterwards inside FME. So we do that.
Yeah, we also talked to Netezza, which is a massive database that their whole thing is, you know, most of the data is in memory, and so yeah. But FME doesn't know or care. But it would be good to know if there's one in particular that you're thinking about.
Yeah, I can recall some that were kind of embedded ones, and I just can't remember their names. The other thing just to mention is that there's a couple of generic ways to get at databases if we don't support them already. And one is through JDBC. We have a generic JDBC driver. So if the database you care about was supported by JDBC and you can get that driver, you can roll with FME pretty flexibly.
Yeah.
Excellent. So we have Robert's question in text, so I'll read it out to everyone. I understand ESRI is using its own proprietary database for its portal implementation. Are there any difficulties attaching to data in ESRI's portal?
I can grab that to quick start. Yes, we do have an actual ESRI ArcGIS portal reader and writer in FME. So that goes through ESRI's APIs to be able to get data to and from however they store it in the back end for portals. So as far as I know, there's no major difficulties handling data getting into that proprietary database just because we use their APIs and that kind of handles everything for us.
Yeah, so I mean, from that perspective, we don't really know or care what ESRI is using underneath because we of course would just want to use their APIs.
Excellent. So next question I have here is, does Fme handle map services? They were hoping to learn anything they can about automating publishing web map services.
We consume them, yeah. So we consume map services. So if there's, and so we're just now working on WMS and there's WMTS, which is coming out. And so we can also connect to map services from ESRI. Is that right as well, Laura?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
We don't really publish, like if it's ESRI Map services, you wouldn't use Fme to publish those, though you could, in an automation, make use of ArcPy, which I think has APIs for doing that. And Laura would know more, but I think it's not an uncommon thing that people use ArcPy in Fme workflows, correct?
Yeah, that's right. So.
All right. So we're going to switch. I'm going to do a little section here on trends. So one of the or trends and opinions, I guess, is what I would call this section. So we have a question about Google's protocol buffers. So Protobuf, what do you guys think about it? Specifically Geobuff, and is there any interest in the industry or from customers that you've seen?
Have you seen any, Don?
This is the first I've heard of Geobuff, honestly. Anyway, how about you, Christian or Laura? You've heard of Geobuff? No.
Never heard of that one, no.
No. Yeah, go ahead.
I have heard of Geobuff, but only among the Twitter followers of the @shapefile, because the @shapefile person likes to mock the Geobuff once in a while. But I honestly know customers have asked for it. It's an interesting technology. I think, we were just talking with one potential integration we might do that's going to make use of this as a transport mechanism between Fme and their service. But in general, when we've actually, there was also a very large customer that was using this internally and wanted us to try to support it. But in general, it's hard to build a generic solution for protobufs because they tend to want you to generate code. You sort of say, here's what my record looks like. You run it through a code generator, and now you have code that's very fast and efficient for that particular record. And for a generic tool like Fme, that's not good for us because we'd have to generate code for everything. So we would want to interpret that, and that's a lot of work. And until we would have enough momentum behind it, we aren't really motivated to go after it.
Yeah, the place we're looking to use Protobuf on the server is just communicating between our components. Right now, historically, there's been XML flying around, and I can't believe anybody would want to replace XML. But apparently, if you go to Protobuf, it's a lot faster.
Yeah.
Not as beautiful, but a lot faster, and speed matters. So we're looking at that again. How do we tie the components together tighter so that we get better performance? And there's also some security benefits to that as well. So yeah.
Perfect. So this is more of a general question, but do you guys have any predictions about the data integration space in general? Any potential upcoming trends or things that you've seen that might be interesting?
There'll be more.
Yeah, no, there's it's super exciting. We're seeing, and we're excited by what we see. We're seeing spatial. That's where SAFE really is strong, and that's where we sort of push into the enterprise from. And we're seeing organizations like Snowflake have added spatial to their big data warehouse, which is exciting. They didn't do that for no reason. They do that because they can then hold more data and grow their market. Also, Google with their BigQuery recently added support for spatial data. So we're excited about that as spatial becomes more important. And with IoT, every event happens somewhere, and I think that's really the key thing for organizations as they start to build and deploy these systems and IoT sensors everywhere. So yeah.
And on that note, Don, someone has asked, does Fme support Kafka integration?
Oh boy, yeah, yes we do. Yeah, there's a Kafka connector on the hub. And again, as Dale alluded to, with these hub transformers, we can upgrade them and improve them all the time. And if you're interested in Kafka and other streaming technologies, you might want to take a look at FME 2021 beta that's out now, or if you spin up a cloud instance, I just uploaded the latest cloud build last night, and or deployed it last night. I wasn't the one who actually uploaded it, but now you can see FME 2021 and where it's going, and it's all about enabling FME to support streams as well as our traditional types of flows. Yeah.
I fired one up last night too, Don. It was my first time seeing the new color palette and automations. It looks awesome.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, there's a lot of goodies there, including being able to see when your server's busy, when it's not busy, and yeah.
You're teasing us about some calendar view coming, Don.
That's right. And if you launch a cloud instance now, or anybody at Safe logs onto Blue Sky, they will see that there. So then they'll be able to see when Blue Sky is busy and when it's not busy. And, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. So this next question might be great for Christian or Laura. Is it possible to simulate a button click or a trigger on a web page using FME and then have it download or generate an Excel file from that web page?
Or do you want to start with that one? Or
Yeah, sure, I can jump in.
Yeah,
so short answer is it may not be possible and it won't be easy either way. So it all depends on how the web page is built. So often I think with these button clicks, there'll often be JavaScript or some other kind of scripting behind the scenes that's powering that page and powering that button. So it's pretty much impossible to simulate that JavaScript or whatever scripting is happening behind the scenes with FME. One thing you could potentially do is if you kind of inspect the code behind that web page and see if you can figure out what the URL that button takes you to download that Excel file. In that case, if you can get that URL and build that yourself, you could possibly trigger that using an HTTP caller. But yeah, it doesn't always work, so it's not always possible. It all depends on the web page itself.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of customers have asked for this as well. And for the most part, a lot of them try and tackle it with using Python. So they'll put a Python caller down to hope that can kind of trigger that JavaScript clicking the button and then grab the file. But as Laura mentioned, obviously getting that download URL, if you can get that, then makes it a whole lot easier. Trouble is that might not always be constant. So
people do use FME to scrape pages too, I think. But that's a little different than what this customer is asking. But there's that, I forget what it's called. There's a transformer that can basically grab stuff out of an HTML table and so on and get you the data, right?
Yeah, the HTML table reader, something like that.
Yeah. The way we test FME Workbench or an FME server at Safe is we use Squish, but that's a pretty heavy solution just to have one page that clicks a button. But that way we can run through a bunch of the web pages and it simulates a user. I'm not sure exactly how they set it up, if some user has to go through the first time or if there's IDs on buttons or how it works, but that's how we test server a lot. Yeah.
Excellent. So this is a question around probably support in the community, but I'm having trouble turning FME scripts into a batch process. Is there any videos or resources that you would suggest on how to get started with creating a batch script? Or just in general, if you do have questions, where should people go?
Yeah, so we definitely have a getting started guide for batch scripts. I believe it's made up of three different articles. So there's a couple of different resources that you have there. We go over a couple of different scenarios, and if you scroll to the bottom of the page, you'll notice that there's also comments on those articles as well. So people often post what troubles they're having right there so that other customers or the author of that article can respond to you directly right on that article. And then obviously the community forum is always open too, and we do accept cases too. So if there's anything we can do to help you out, those are two really good resources. The benefit of the community is that it's available, like the questions accessible to everyone around the world. So you've got users, you got partners and safers alike, and we're all trying to help you solve that problem.
Community.safe.com, is that what gets you there?
Yep, community.safe.com. And then there'll be a link to the forums at the top of the page. And that's also where you'll find those articles as well. So those are in the knowledge base section. You can just search for batch file probably, and you'll see there's a couple of hits return for getting started with batch file, and I think they're labeled batch operations method 1, and then there's 2 other methods.
Thanks, Chris. So I have a question from Matt, and this is specifically. Oh, thanks, Steph. So Don,
sorry, my internet's very laggy today. I will try.
That's okay. Okay, I will do the next question here. So Don, you like to have max of 10 transformers in a workspace. Do you often organize these so they can be reused easily in multiple projects?
Yeah, there's a good story there. The reason I have this 10 transformer rule that I've coined, and it's when I'm on the world tour, we're doing demos, I have this, if I can build it in under 10 transformers, then the audience can understand and they can leave. We want people to leave with the feeling that they can do it, right? And if I build a workspace with hundreds of transformers, then really that's kind of lost, because there's, yeah, you can take something and you can, in any workspace with 100 transformers, it started off with fewer, and then people started iterating and adding, oh, now I'm going to do this, now I'm going to do that. And now, having said that, I'm a very simple person, and everybody online can vouch for that. And so I do use the custom transformers a lot, or now I use the bookmarks. The bookmarks or the collapsible transformers are just fantastic, because now you can really use abstraction, and at the highest level, you're going to see step 1 do this, step 2 do this, and then you can expand each and drill in. So I think those are, whenever I do anything significant with FME, I just love the collapsible bookmarks. I think they are the best thing for whatever. I even have a collapsible bookmark where I'll just put in documentation, right? It's called documentation. You expand it and then you see the documentation, but actually there's nothing else in there. So, and I stole that from some safer, might have been Mark Ireland or Laura or somebody. I saw that, or Dean, and I just said, oh, that's the greatest idea. So yeah.
And I have a follow-up from Matt as well. This could be to anybody, but do you have any useful tips for how to organize FME files other than a folder per project? I think the challenge he's having is he has about 1,000 workspaces that he could reference, and he's having challenges keeping it all organized and easily discoverable.
So I'll give the humorous quip while Laura and Christian come up with a serious one. My friend the @shapefile on Twitter says that 80% of every GIS project is choosing a folder structure. So there you go.
Yeah. I don't know if I have any good tips outside of folder structures. I've got quite the complex one going on in my system right now, kind of organized by format or based on what I was doing at the time. So yeah. Don't know if I have any better advice than that.
Yeah, I'm kind of guilty of that as well, because I do it by project folder. So
if Don and I can get into product brainstorming mode, part of our long-term vision is that FME Server acts as more of a hub for the whole enterprise. And one part of that could be to be a searchable catalog of your workspaces. In the past, long ago, we had some Windows extensions that actually would index and figure out what readers and writers were in your workspaces. And there's been a few of our partners that have made workspace search things as well. So this is definitely a need.
Yeah. And certainly Server could do that, because we do have a workspace reader. So Server in the background could, when you could just read and, and pull metadata out of all the workspaces, so that, but the directory structure is key, as Laura said. I mean, I have mine based on FME release. Somehow that helps me. I don't know. And then I have to remember, did I build that for this release or that release? So I'm not saying it's a good structure. I'm just saying it's better than no structure.
So I'm just going to tell you already, I've got one directory here that's been going since 1993, and it has 1,500 entries in it. That's my folder structure. Dale data. There you go. 1,500 entries at the top level. So don't be like me.
That's awesome. Yeah, we have Ravi commenting, so true, Dale. A few people are relating to the challenges of file structures. Excellent. So next one we're going to ask is, does FME support webhooks to trigger some events like sending an email or report to a recipient when an action occurs? And the example they're giving is when someone submits things in a survey 123 form.
Yeah, we absolutely do. So I think we have an example in our community kind of walking through how to set this up specifically for survey 123. So definitely check that one out. This is done through FME server. So within automations, we have the ability to set up webhooks so that any other application can connect to that specific URL and post data to that. And from there, you can take that data and pass that into additional workspaces to be able to take that information and process that and push it further down the line to wherever it needs to go. Yeah, and sending an email is part of that as well. So we have some options within automations themselves to take that data, process it, and send out emails maybe to whoever submitted the form or whoever needs to know about whatever has changed there. So yeah, quite a few options there to set that up.
Great. Steph, I see there's a hand raised. Do we want to give it a shot here?
Let's do it. Okay, I'm going to promote you to panelist. Hopefully, try one last time. Hang on here. Okay, you know what? It's not letting me promote this person at all, unfortunately. So I think for this webinar, we might have to scrap the hand raising feature. It doesn't seem to be working correctly. But fortunately, we have a ton of questions coming in through text, so we can just continue that way.
Okay, excellent. I have an interesting one that all of you may have different opinions on, but what is the most underrated or less known feature in FME?
Ooh,
That's a good one.
I'll jump in. I think that one of our most underrated features is when people think of databases, they often look at the database readers as a way of reading a database, when really they should be looking at the SQL executor or the SQL creator, because those expose the entire power of the underlying database. The database reader is great if you want to move a huge amount of data or you're working with one table and things like that, but that often comes up, you know, when as these databases get bigger. So let's say you're working with Snowflake or Google BigQuery or something, the last thing you want to do is open up your database reader and start grinding through millions and millions of rows. You want to build a massive SQL statement and push as much of the power as you can down to the database, and then have FME deal with the results. Yeah. So, aren't you guys proud I didn't even talk about XML? Aren't you guys? Yeah. That's a good question, though. That's a tough one.
we should quickly look at the transformers list and see which is the last one. I know that I could make the joke that our support of the proj, the new coordinate system stuff from the open source community, that might be underrated just because it seems like nobody's using it at all. But that's okay, because we know that we're ahead of the curve, and with time it'll become more important as well. I was thinking that actually along the lines of Dawn, just the whole way we interact with readers and writers in FME, and especially database ones, is probably an opportunity for kind of consolidation in our design, not to have two different ways. And related to that is the feature reader and the feature writer that can do reading and writing midstream are probably a little bit underused. I have to say, it was so funny. There was one of our partners I was on a call with recently, and they said that they were teaching a course, and there was a new to FME person in there that had been self-taught, and they did not know what readers and writers were. They somehow stumbled upon the feature reader and writer in their infancy, and they had never ever used a traditional reader or writer and couldn't figure out what the training course was talking about. So
Wow.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the feature reader and feature writer. Those are two really powerful ones. I would say another one for me would be almost all of the attribute transformers have the option to import. So you can import from a different data set. Say you're reading in an Excel file and you want the schema from a different database table. You can import that schema right into the attribute manager or the schema mapper. A lot of different transformers like that. And now there's also the functionality to import from feature caches as well. So if you run partial runs up to the previous transformer, you can import values or attribute names from the previous, or from that feature cache. So.
Excellent. So this is a question from the audience member. How does FME manage the lines, polygons, and points for their color and thickness in CAD files when converting to GIS? And their example is geodatabases.
So when we started off long ago, Don will remember this, there was the idea of positional data versus representational data. And the idea was that representational data is how you're actually going to draw it. Positional data is where it really is. And FME decided to go down the path of caring about where stuff really is and leave the decisions about how you're going to draw it to the applications. So we ourselves don't really have an innate concept of thickness. That said, when we're reading from CAD, if there is a thickness value, we'll chuck it on as what we call an attribute and carry it along. But it's just an attribute like any other. It might as well be Don's salary. You know, it could be anything that we're pulling through. And so when you get to the geodatabase, you can't really write out styling information. We've never actually attempted to write ESRI styling information because that's in a separate, that's in those map documents and layer files and so on. And so you really put the raw data out there however it makes sense and then create your map nicely. And so that's kind of been our angle. You can use the Mapnik rasterizer to rasterize and style data, but mostly FME isn't a styling sort of thing.
Excellent. So this is a question that's dating back just throughout the years of building FME, because there's obviously a lot of functionality in the product. But what was the most difficult functionality or feature to build in FME?
Well, I think Don should give an answer. I'll say that in the very recent term, Revit reading was by far the hardest things in the modern era that we attempted as sort of a single project. But going back before that, Don, what would you?
Yeah, I mean, there's some bodies of work that have been going on forever.
Yes.
And they never end. So we just think about our geometric, and a number of them come up. Geometric processing, our team, we have, you know, super smart people who spend their whole life doing, you know, algorithmic, you know, geometric design and implementation, and to make FME better and faster. The data volumes are just going crazy. And another one, I know I'm an XML guy, but what we've built there again has been years and years of work, and it's now, you know, we're really confident in saying if anybody has that kind of data, XML or JSON, you know, we can work with it much better than anybody else, and you don't have to dive into the bowels of XSLT or anything like that. Yeah, we do have the hooks for that, but less and less do you need to do that. So those are, but there's so many things. I mean, there's feature tables. There's so many things that we've done that have been years of work, right? So yeah.
Kind of joking aside, it's fair to say that the XML work is, I think, at least 20 years continuously.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So
by some very smart people. So it's yeah.
Awesome. So I have 3 different questions from different folks, but they all are somewhat related. So we'll start with the first one, but does FME have any text or image extraction features? And their example they gave is optical character recognition.
I think there's some hub things, right, Chris or Laura?
Yeah, there are.
Yeah, Dimitri's
done some stuff, and the name escapes me, but
is it Piptera? Is that the one?
Tesseract.
Tesseract. That's for text. Yeah.
Yeah.
Piptera is more for object detection, right?
Yeah, we've read license plates, for example. Even in the latest world tour, they did something funny with my car where they had approved license plates and not approved license plates, and my car wasn't approved license plate, so they threatened to tow it out of the garage, and you know, good fun like that.
I think there's also a line tracing one. Some of these are integrations where you download another package and then FME can interface with it. But there's one that I think can fish lines out as well. I can't remember its name right now, but there's a few of these kinds of things that work on extracting stuff from raster.
I believe you want the potrace collar.
There we go.
There it is.
There you go.
And then a follow-up question.
That really is the strength of FME, really is we recognize we could do a lot, but then we also recognize that there's amazing libraries out there and things like Python and R, and so we built gateways to those worlds. I mean, a different approach would be, hey, we're going to re-implement everything that is in the Python universe, which would have been insane. And so, and Dale and Laura touched on one earlier, ArcPy, and there's, you know, there's Beautiful Soup. There's just so many different things out there. Yeah.
If you're a Star Trek person, you should think of FME as the Borg, assembling pieces from other cultures and packages in a relentless search for perfection.
That's right. We're a little friendlier though.
And then following up on that, it's in the same realm, but is it possible to extract content from PDF documents using FME?
Definitely. Yeah, so that kind of depends on what method you're going to go with this. Is the data in the PDF vectorized? Is it geospatial enabled? Because if that's the case, then you can pull all those vector features out and treat them just as if they were like a shapefile. If it's a rasterized PDF, then you're going to have to do some of that object detection to pull the features out, or use some of the hub transformers for getting that line detection or the text detection.
Excellent. So this is a question back around the world of development, but there's so many new features that appear every year in the world. How has FME been able to support them so quickly?
Well, we're glad that people say we're supporting them quickly. Where Don and I sit, it always is a big long list of things we don't get to do, but we try very hard to figure out what will be useful to our clients. We listen. That's one of the big losses for us of not being able to go on world tour was not getting that feedback from thousands of you, because that has traditionally put us close to you and let us come home and turn around things quickly. But we basically survey the landscape and try to do what we can. If you are building a Borg ship, it's good if the Borg ship is easy to add stuff to. And the architecture of FME is such that it's quite easy to add stuff to. So that's also been helping over the years.
Yeah. So do let us know if there's a format or system you want us to connect to. You can go on ideas or reach out through our live chat or the community. We watch all those things to look for trends and systems that we think are going to impact the most customers. Yeah.
Excellent. And this leads into the ideas forum. Which transformer, I've rephrased this question slightly, but which transformer did you guys upgrade or give a facelift to that's your favorite over the past few years?
Well, I know that right now, while Don's thinking, and this isn't, I'm ducking the question like a politician might. One that is getting a hard look at is the Clipper. It's very, very popular, and there are some kind of architectural baggage associated with it that we're looking to revamp, not in a cataclysmic way, but to kind of look at it all over and see what we can do to make that one better. So that's one that's being thought of right now. We do have a concept of retiring transformers. We'll do it in a way that old stuff still works, but you can't easily put it back again, and it's replaced with something else. So that has happened over the years. I can't come up with a good example though. Is there any that comes to your mind, Don? Of
the one that's it's a little bit humorous is the feature joiner, like the feature merger. Everybody uses a feature merger. It's one of the hottest transformers out there. The challenge with the feature merger is it tries to do so much. Yes. And so because it tries to do so much, it can be slower than it needs. So we wrote the feature joiner, which can do, I'm going to say, Laura and Christian can correct me, probably 80–90% of what the feature merger does, but it's much faster. But still, the feature merger seems to be one that people just like it a lot. And of course, we're trying to make it faster too. So, yeah.
Yeah, if you look at safe.com/transformers, I think you'll find that the feature merger still beats the feature joiner. Yeah, it's number 4 with a bullet. And so even though we've been trying to get people to not use it for several years, so we've given up trying that. And actually, literally right now, it's getting a big overhaul inside of the engine. We're taking out the old 2-cylinder and we're putting in one of several electric motors, I think. And
that's right.
And you will see a difference in many usage scenarios for the feature merger. It'll be a pretty big amount faster in FME 2021.
Yeah, and that guy was written. What format was that one written to process? E00 files?
Yes.
Yeah.
And we always bring up E00, and I'm sure there's some in the audience. Anybody still using E00 actively, you'll be pleased to know that we just upgraded our E00 support to support Unicode data, which I'm sure is going to be very exciting for people. And unfortunately, I'm not joking. That did happen, but
Yeah, I see a vote in the comments for the statistics calculator. That was also a good
Yes,
facelift.
that's right. It was never imagined how heavily it would get worked. And so it originally was written in Python, which let us get it done quickly, but probably wasn't the right trade-off to make. So both its user interface and the plumbing of it got completely changed, I think a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, I can't remember when. That's one of the things I'm very proud of the team, because if you had an existing workspace, you can right click and say upgrade the transformer. And even though the user interface basically is totally different, we have code in there that tries to get you going exactly the way you were before, only you'll be about 10 times faster. So that's a great example.
Yeah, the statistics calculator, I'd have to say, is the winner on that. Yeah, and if you haven't used the new statistics calculator, like really you should have a look. It's just so much different experience and more powerful than the original one. So that's a great one to push.
Don, you can correct me, but wasn't it on the order of 100 times faster?
Yeah, it's just insane as well. It's insanely fast, and the old one was slow, and yeah, that one's a great example.
The lesson there is if you're processing millions of rows of data, maybe Python isn't where your answer lies.
I see a joke about where the retired transformers go. It's sent to an old system.
Yeah, they just live on forever. They never really go away.
Yeah. Somebody remembers E00. Well, we even do PC Arc Info, so there you go. So if you really want to feel real old there, yeah.
Excellent. Well, we have only a few minutes left, so I have one final question from, I believe it's Gagan. Yeah, it's going to be a rapid fire. What is everyone's favorite transformer?
Oh, it's like, what is your favorite child? How am I supposed to answer that?
It's easy for me. Yeah. XML flattener.
I'm going to go with Attribute Manager because it's very popular. Does a lot of things. Sorry if I stole yours, Laura.
No worries. No, mine was the HTTP caller. So.
Yes. There you go.
Yeah, I'm also with Attribute Manager. Love using conditional values in there, importing schemas, and setting new values in there, because you can do it with strings, you can do dates, you can do any math in there as well. So it just gives you so much flexibility.
Yeah. And watch this space. It's getting a little bit of a tune-up for Fme 2021.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, there's a few questions left that I think the experts will get to, but we will, I think, close it down for now. But thanks so much, everyone, for a great Ask Me Anything webinar, and thanks for a great first webinar. That went well.
Yeah, great job, Megan. It was fun.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, I think we'll close it down now. But thanks, everybody, for attending.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. Yeah, and stay safe. Yeah.